Should we do this one?
No, because they're not sponsoring it.
It's a bit of a piss take, yeah. This episode of Beyond the Feet is sponsored by Australian Springboarder. Probably 80 cents for a lot of water.
Put it in one of those recycling things and it's 70 cents.
70, that's a bargain for that amount of water.
10 cents back.
Ready? Recording?
Yeah.
Ourselves. Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Feet. In this video we're going to be explaining the New Balance range. Most of their highly consumed runners, so you got your 1080, your Prism, your Beacon, your 860, your 880 as well as your Propel. So I'll go in depth through a few and just trying to keep it simple at the same time. So firstly, Josh will start. Before we jump into it, you got a few different categories here. So you got your lightweight runners or your fuel cell runners in your Prism, and then as well as your Propel, as well as your Beacon and that guy there. And then you got your neutral cushion shoes, your 880 as well as your 1080, and then that lone stability shoe in the 860. They should have a kind of max cushion stability shoe as well, but we'll jump into that later on. So yeah, starting it off, looking at your Propel version 2, you got that one fuel cell element running throughout the whole shoe, so that one-piece cushioning system designed as that neutral daily trainer slash tempo shoe. So really lightweight and soft, same time it is really responsive. So it is a very flexible shoe as opposed to the Prism, but Kez will break that down shortly. Looking at your Propel, this shoe is a neutral trainer, so really lightweight, soft, responsive, and it feels quite fast underfoot. If you're chasing a shoe that bang for buck, it is one of the fastest shoes you're going to pick up under the foot, and you want to feel like you're a bit faster than you actually are, this shoe will work well. It's not a very pleasurable shoe to run in if you are heel striking, as the shoe is very flexible as I said, but if you can get onto your midfoot or your toes, it's quite a nice shoe to run in general. Looking at your outsole in it, you got a ton of rubber underneath, that blown rubber in your forefoot, and then that high abrasive rubber around the heel. So in comparison to other tempo shoes, you're going to be looking at about 600 Ks out of this, where a lot of other tempo shoes, you'll be struggling to kind of push that 400, 500 mark. So durability in a lightweight shoe, bang for buck, it's an awesome pickup. You got tons of cushioning around that collar. That upper on it, it's nice and airy and quite breathable at the same time. Definitely not as stretchy as your 1080. I'm also kind of sit it somewhere in between the 880 and your Beacon. So nice lightweight mesh, plenty of wiggle room in the toes. At the same time though, with that 3D engineering or that functional logo, it wraps around the foot really nicely in your midfoot area. The only downside of it I found was that 3D print up around the collar, but it only took a couple Ks and that wore in. So yeah, after that, it's just a really nice shoe to run in. I think in the States you're looking at about $100. Here in Australia we're at 180. So I think your next closest competitor kind of sits at 200, 220 mark. So bang for buck, awesome pickup as a neutral shoe that's really lightweight and soft and very fast. Yeah, it's a great pickup for sure. Just comparing it to the New Balance Prism, so these guys are basically brothers. Very similar shoe, just has a slight bit more medial posting, so it doesn't have a whole lot of torsion throughout that whole gait cycle, whereas the Propel's got a lot more flexibility throughout the whole shoe. Very similar geometry, just got a bit more of a dialed in upper on this. You have a bit more 3D printing going around on that medial side. Yeah, very nicely dialed in. So a bit more structure around the upper as well, since it is a stability shoe. Very nice aesthetic shoe. I'm pretty sure this is the Energy Streak version, but very nice fast looking shoe, similar outsole. You got a ton of grip underneath that forefoot, so even if you do want something that works as that lightweight daily trainer with a bit of stability, something like the Prism could easily do that. Yeah, you're going to get a ton of miles out of that. If you are someone that does heel strike, I probably wouldn't really recommend this shoe. If you do kind of rear midfoot strike or even forefoot strike, this will work nicely, just a bit of more added guidance throughout the medial side. Yeah, very nicely dialed in shoe. Haven't had a chance to run in this yet, as well as a Beacon, but have ran it in the Beacon and just love the V2 version of it. But yeah, very nicely dialed in. Nice structured upper. They don't have a gusseted tongue on this, but they do have quite a nicely dialed in lace loop there, so it's not going to slip down to that lateral side. But this is on that kind of niche market. There's not a whole lot of brands doing that lightweight stability shoe that does have a bit of bounce back. But the Prism is on its own, and it is a very good shoe for what it does. But yeah, fits true to size. I take a 12 in most things, and I'm a 12 in this. But yeah, very nice round toe box. It's not too wide or too narrow, and it is quite shallow throughout the whole shoe, which it should be since it is a stability shoe, so it targets that person that has a medium to low instep. Yeah, both very good shoes as far as the FuelCell goes.
And in terms of your fit of your Propel, it does fit true to size as well. So I normally take a 9, took a 9 in this guy. Would say it has a little bit more volume throughout the midfoot area than the Prism, just because it is designed for someone with a medium to high arch, as it is a neutral shoe, and it is quite flexy. So yeah.
Moving on to your Fresh Foam series. This is your 1080. You got your 880 that we've got there, both version 10s. The 1080 is a max cushioned neutral shoe, so you can basically pick this up, do a ton of Ks in, takes a lot of fatigue out of the legs, the muscles, the bones, and you're just going to have quite a pleasurable ride. I've personally done 310 Ks in this guy here. It's held up pretty well, slightly bit more wear on that lateral side in the midfoot area. Nice endurance rubber at the heel as well as the toe, so you got a bit more high abrasive rubber in those areas, and they have just put an air blown rubber underneath the forefoot just to give the Fresh Foam a bit more cushioning underneath that. Even though you've got a 22mm stack height at the forefoot and a 30 at the rear, still got a ton of cushioning underneath there. With that Fresh Foam as well, I found it about 80 Ks. Took about that time to soften up, was a slightly bit more of a firmer ride to get going, but once that 80k mark hit, sunk into it nicely, could easily tick the legs over, took a lot of that shock absorption out of the body, and the shoe was definitely doing a bit of a nicer job. With that rocker sole, it's the first 1080 that kind of introduced that rocker sole. It's not as severe as a Hoka range. Heel strike just does transition through that midfoot area and onto the forefoot quite nicely. Since I'm a rear midfoot striker, I just love it, and there's a ton of cushioning underneath that forefoot. With the upper, easily one of the best uppers that any brand has released this year. Nice gusseted tongue, very good midfoot lockdown. It's quite a shallow fit. It does have quite an elastic to it though. You can easily, it adapts to quite a few different foot types. But yeah, very nice stretchy upper, very breathable. I found even in running in the wet that I didn't get wet feet, probably since the stack height's quite high, and just that hypo net that New Balance do use, just kind of gets rid of water. But yeah, very nicely dialed in upper. I thought I'd have a bit of trouble with that ultra heel, but it still locks in the heel very good. Good shoe.
New Balance 880 uses that Fresh Foam as well, just a little bit less of it, and then you got that true fuse on that top layer as well. So still gives you that nice soft plush sink in, not as much as the 1080. It is that lower price point in shoe though, so you do expect that. Very, very stable feel underfoot for a neutral shoe, so it's not too flexible throughout the whole thing, and a very nice dialed in heel counter around the back. So if you're someone who not a fan of the ultra heel flare away, this guy here does feel a little bit more traditional wrapping around the back. Plenty of padding around the heel counter as well, so if you want that kind of nice plush cushion shoe for a bit of daily training, or that shoe you want to just slug out anywhere from 5 to 10 Ks, even 20 Ks in a run, this guy will work really well for you. You're not going to run really fast in it, but if you're someone who just wants to get into running, even uses a gym shoe or just that daily trainer without kind of paying $250, this guy's going to work really well for you. Ton of rubber underneath the foot, so you're going to get heaps of Ks out of it. A little bit of a softer rubber up in your forefoot area as well, and then that more durable rubber in your landing zones. So yeah, quite a great package underneath the foot. Looking about that 800 to 1000 Ks quite easy. I would say this shoe here, in my opinion, will be a little bit more durable than the 1080. Because you got that full Fresh Foam running throughout, it does have the potential to collapse a little bit earlier. With that true fuse, that little bit more of a stock standard EVA cushioning on top, does give you a bit more of an element of durability to it. With that Fresh Foam running throughout the bottom bit though, it does take a lot of shock off the legs at the same time. So yeah, 880, they've nailed it on the head. In terms of the upper fit and feel wrapping around the foot, it is a much more kind of durable, kind of firmer mesh on the upper. Really breathable still, but nowhere near as stretchy. So if you like a really soft, stretchy mesh, similar to like a Flyknit by Nike, the 1080 is your way to go. If you want that more traditional, kind of locked in feel around the foot where you can't wiggle your toes as much, the 880 will work quite well for you. If you're someone who takes orthotics even, or just has that little bit more depth in the midfoot area, this shoe will work well. And it has, yeah, plenty of depth locking around the back of the foot as well. So overall, great pickup that New Balance has kind of innovated from their last season's model. I am really liking the Fresh Foam in general. It's a great cushioning system. I'd probably say it's one of the better cushioning systems on the market right now, up against kind of that Power Run Plus by Saucony. Yeah, but overall they compete nicely. 880, very durable.
So basically the lightweight version of the Fresh Foam series is your Beacon version 3. I did do about 200 Ks in the version 2 and basically using it for a work shoe now. Our first video was on the Beacon version 2 after 100 Ks. But yeah, they haven't changed a whole lot from the V2 at all. Basically the rubber's basically in the same spots. I found that it wore pretty well as much as you would expect when it comes to exposed outsole, but very pleasurable run underneath the foot. This does run with a 6mm drop as well. I'm pretty sure the Prism as well as a Propel does, so I find that 6mm drop a happy medium. Still got enough kind of cushioning if your feet do get a little bit lazy and you want a heel strike, but there's still enough underneath your forefoot. This is quite a stable neutral shoe. Like there's not a whole lot of torsion. There's quite a bit more flexibility in the 880 compared to these guys here. But yeah, very nice dialed in upper. I'm quite surprised they didn't add a lace loop into the tongue here, since just can easily just slip down to that lateral side. Even just adding a bit of a gusset would have fixed that. But nice shallow fitting toe box. It is quite a round fit, so if you do feel like you need that slightly more extra room on those 3rd and 4th and 5th toes, it just does round off quite nicely. Very breathable, very nicely dialed in upper. There's not really much of a heel counter. You got a bit more kind of, I think it's like a thick neoprene, so hugs onto the Achilles quite alright, but it doesn't irritate it at all. Still has a lock lace, but yeah, very pleasurable ride underneath the foot. Got a nice ground contact, so it's going to make for a smooth ride throughout the whole gait cycle. Yeah, I can't really fault it. It goes up quite well against the Hoka Rincon as well as the Saucony Kinvara, and a lot of other lightweight daily trainers on the market. I did see myself picking up the version 2 quite a lot, and I'd probably see myself doing the same with the version 3 since it does fit my foot very nicely.
How would you compare it with the Propel?
You'd be looking at kind of a more, I wouldn't really use this as a speed workout shoe. If you wanted something to go a bit faster in, I found myself even picking this up for like a longer run, whereas I think if you want something to do a bit of a fast run, the Propel would be more fixated for that.
Yeah, it could easily quite work quite nicely as a rotation. So if you're wanting something for those longer Ks, still a really lightweight shoe though, pick up that guy, and then you want to go for that faster, more kind of bouncy feel underfoot, you pick up the Propel, or even just that shoe you want to do a bit more of a slug in, you pick up those 1080s quite nicely. So yeah, all great bang for buck shoes in that neutral range by New Balance. Moving on to your stability shoe. Is this their only stability shoe?
That's a stability shoe.
Yeah.
940, mate? Yeah, 940.
That's a full for it, I think.
Cooked a bar
a bigger boy. Moving on to your New Balance 860 version 11, we did just post the first run in that guy, so make sure you go check that out. Pretty much entering that Fresh Foam series as well, so you get that slightly softer top layer of cushioning running throughout, and then you got a true fuse running underneath. So it does make for that very stable shoe all the way through the foot, and then with the traditional medial posting up on the inside there. So nice and structured on the inside, doesn't dig in too much. So if you're someone who wants a daily trainer, especially for those kind of bigger blokes, or even someone who's not bigger but you need that maximum support without a shoe breaking down really quickly, the 860 version 11 will work really well for you. And with that Fresh Foam, it does give you that nice initial softness. At the same time though, it's not going to be too sloppy or too flexible. Really nice dialed in upper wrapping around the whole shoe, gives you that really nice lockdown, and it is going to be quite a durable mesh. It's still breathes really well, but it's not too stretchy at all, holds the foot really well, which you do want out of a stability shoe. If you got a stability shoe that's like quite rigid in the outsole and then a ridiculously sloppy mesh, especially throughout the whole shoe, it's not going to work. There's a possibility you could whack kind of that forefoot on this guy and it'll work alright, but the 860 does give you a good lockdown from heel to forefoot, even if you do slightly forefoot pronate. Add your heel counter in this guy, you got that ultra heel flare away around the back, and then that bit of memory foam wrapping around, so it's a really nice padded feel in a 3D print. So if you're someone who gets irritated by like a traditional heel counter, or if you have any Achilles tendinopathy or anything like that, your 860s will work well. It does have that 10mm pitch, so quite a traditional feeling shoe underneath the foot, and with your rubber underneath, you're going to get a ton of Ks out of. So if you just want something you can pick up, go for a slog in, even if you want to wear them for a bit of gym, or just that shoe you're going to work in day to day, or just, yeah, pretty much anything, walking, running, gym, all of the above. You could easily run a marathon in it. You wouldn't want to be in it for too long though, because it doesn't have a ton of cushioning under there, but that nice shoe you want to whack on the foot, feel very stable in, day out, it will work really well for you.
You could easily have both of these in a rotation if you are been happy with the New Balance brand. This is still a bit stable, even if you want to pick up the pace and even do something like a negative split or just get your legs ticking over a bit faster. Both of these could work hand in hand quite nicely. It's not going to be as stable as the 860, but will be a slightly bit faster. You don't have as much as cushioning underneath the foot, but it is kind of still that soft ride. You will get a bit more back compared to what you put down. It does have a high energy return, the FuelCell, when it comes to the Prism there.
Yeah, so I mean, if you got an 860 at the moment and you're running in it, you're really liking in it, and then if you want to see kind of how fast you run, pick up the Prism. It's quite a fairly cheap shoe for what you get out of it. Couldn't go wrong with that guy for sure. Yeah, so that'll about wrap it up with your New Balance range. Yes, there's one or two other ones. You got your Fresh Foam more up the top there with that ton of cushioning under the foot. It's a bit kind of overkill when you got the 1080, and then there's a couple little other shoes. You have your RC as well as your TC, which are their carbon plated shoes, plus you just got the Speed Rift that dropped by New Balance as well. Oh, yeah.
Someday we'll get our hands on those. But these are basically your daily trainers, so you can do a bit of everything in, and yeah, they'll suit a lot of people's feet. If you do want more of a stability shoe, you got your 860 and your Prism. Then if you do want something like, yeah, just a bit more of a daily trainers, your 1080 as well as your 880 work quite alright. Then all your lightweight shoes as far as your Beacon, your Propel as well as your Prism. So they are actually all very good shoes. They do stand on their own. Then you can easily have a few of these in your rotation if need be. So if you want that stability duo, your Prism and your 860. I probably wouldn't see you having both of these guys in your rotation. You might have something like both your Propel as well as your 880. If you want that bit more of a traditional shoe, then you could easily, like myself, I have the 1080 as well as a Beacon in my rotation, and I've just started picking up the Prism since it's going to be just a bit of a different ride. But yeah, they're all very good shoes. Can't really fault too much out of them, and New Balance has definitely changed a lot up since this time last year, as well as a lot come 2 years ago.
Yeah, and bang for buck, can't go wrong with pretty much anything on this table. So if you're wanting good value out of your money, pick up any of these guys. This video isn't sponsored, just New Balance have done great things and we do appreciate it. So yeah, hit that subscribe, smash the like button, and we'll catch you in another video.
See you next time.